Okay, good morning, everybody. We'll get started. I want to say thank you for coming out. I'm Mayor Tim Balderman, and I really appreciate this, that it's a rainy Sunday morning and you've taken time out of your lives to come up here and to remember with us and to say thank you to our first responders and our military, of which we owe a tremendous amount of gratitude every day. Every day. We were out here yesterday in the Commons. There was a walk that was put on by members of the VFW, and our veterans were out here to talk about suicide prevention for our military that see some of the most horrific things and give so much of their life to defending our way of life here in America, separated from their families and serving overseas, or even if they're stationed here in the United States. It's a difficult task, and unfortunately so many struggle quietly and take their own lives. And so yesterday there was the Warrior Walk to raise funds to help with suicide prevention for those that are struggling, and our community came out to support that. We are here today, 21 years after the events of 9/11, because there was a vow that we would never forget, that we would never forget. And here in New Lenox, we don't take slogans lightly. We mean them. Never forget means never forget. Home of Proud Americans means being a proud American, not just talking about it and doing it. And I always like to stay positive, but I will tell you, most of the people here in the room, the residents that have come out, are from my generation or a little older. We have the exception of this beautiful young lady up front here, but this is what we need to see. We need to see that those that were born after the events of this day, who don't know the way of life that we had prior to 9/11, that don't know the way that, although there was obviously anger in the aftermath of 9/11, we found a unity to come together, to remember that we are all Americans. Despite the color of our skin, despite our political ideology, despite our religious beliefs, we do live in the greatest country in the world. And that we could put those things aside. But we shouldn't have to have, and just as I'm saying that, here comes some more beautiful young people, which I'm happy to see. But yes, here comes some more kids. Come on in, guys. Now more than ever, we really do have to let the anger of politics subside. We can have our beliefs. We have a free election system where we can vote for those people that we think support our beliefs. But at the end of the day, life is very short. No matter how long we live, life is very short. And if we're not good to each other, if we're not kind to each other, if we're not compassionate to those that are in need, then what's the point? If we're truly going to be proud Americans, we need to act like proud Americans. We need to behave in a way that lets us be a model for other countries. Why do people flee their country to come here? Because it is the greatest country on earth, despite our challenges, despite the difficulties that we have. But if we're going to remain the greatest country on earth, we need to support our law and order. We need to support our first responders. We need to support our military. We need to support and hold up the Constitution and what it really means. And we can disagree with each other, but we need to be kind to each other. We need to be compassionate with each other. Those are the lessons that we need to teach young people. They're watching us. They're watching us now. They're watching our interactions on social media. They're watching and listening to our conversations at home and at family parties. Healthy debate is the cornerstone of our country. But negativity and nastiness and attacks is only going to breed that sort of hatred, and we can't have that. 9/11 happened because people hated our country and our way of life. They attacked what we have here. We can't be attacking each other from the inside. We have to stand together as Americans. And so I'm glad to see you all out here. I'm glad to see some young people out here. Thank you. And let's spread the word. Today, we are going to talk about the events of 9/11. Again, most of you in this room were old enough to remember what happened. But if we don't continue to talk about it, then it will just become a distant memory. We can't do that. So, the first impact of American Airlines Flight 11 happened at 8:46 Eastern Time. And it crashed into the North Tower of the World Trade Center in Lower Manhattan. At 9:03, the South Tower was hit by United Airlines Flight 175. They were both 110-story towers. And they collapsed within an hour and 42 minutes. The third flight, American Airlines 77, crashed into the west side of the Pentagon at 9:37 a.m. And then the final flight, United Airlines 93, was headed for Washington, D.C., most likely for the Capitol. But brave citizens on board, knowing what was happening because they were in contact with family members and friends back home, sacrificed their own lives to save others on the ground and brought that plane down. Absolutely, they're heroes. There's no question about that. The attacks resulted in just under 3,000 fatalities. There were over 25,000 injuries and substantial long-term health consequences, property damage of over $10 billion. We think about the innocent men, women, and children that were in those buildings and on those planes. We think about our brave first responders, many of whom gave their lives trying to save others, and the thousands of military personnel who in the conflicts after 9/11 lost their lives defending our freedoms. But we can't just dwell on the past. We have to remember it, we have to talk about it, we have to teach it. But we have to live in the present, and we have to say thank you. And so today we decided to do this a little differently. We decided to ask you to come out and say thank you to those that are serving our communities every day, that are serving our country every day. It's a difficult, difficult time for men and women in any uniform. There is an air of disrespect from some that make their job extremely difficult. It's difficult to serve our nation when we're divided. And we as people have to say no to those that profit from that division. Politicians, news media, they don't make money, they don't get elected if they don't divide us. If they don't tell you, you have to be in my camp, not that camp. But in a free country like ours, we control our own destiny. We have to say no to that because there are too many incredible Americans that have given their lives so we can live in a free society. Politicians work for us, not the other way around. Politicians are supposed to serve us, not us serving them and what they want. As the mayor of this community, I try to reach out to those that live here, that own businesses here. We don't always agree, and there are things that I vote on that I might not personally think I support, but if the community wants it and the community supports it, that's my job, to do what you want, not just what I want. This isn't my town, this is our town. But somehow that gets lost. The further detached elected officials are from the people they serve. We need to rise up as a nation together and not let the sacrifices of our American heroes be in vain. So I want to, again, thank you all for being out here today, remembering this horrific day. Please, if you're out with family today watching the Bears game or at a party or whatever you do, make sure that we are telling our sons, our daughters, our grandchildren, hey, did you think about 9/11 today? Did you spend any time talking about what happened today? We need the young people to remember this. We need to remember why we are the greatest nation on earth. So thank you. I'm going to ask our police chief and our fire chief to come up. We do have so many members. Tim, if you'd like to come up for the veterans as well and say a few words, we would certainly appreciate it. If these three gentlemen like to come up, let's give them a round of applause. Of course.
Hey, good morning, everyone.
Good morning. Morning.
Thanks for coming out. Never an easy task following the mayor, that's for sure. And then everything you think you're going to say, he covers and then some. So I was just driving in this morning, and like I've done for the past 21 years, you stop and reflect where you were that morning, what you might have been experiencing after learning the news, and then how we picked up the pieces, wondering where we were going to go or what was going to happen. So that's kind of how my day started out. And then on the drive in, I thought about how, for the most part, we focus on that this day. Occasionally throughout the year, we'll see some images today and relive those moments. But for many that lost lives, family members of firefighters or family members of police officers, how much more they experience that tragedy over and over, and how fortunate we are to be here today because of their bravery, because of their service. And then you immediately focus on, like the mayor touched on, the unity that we had in those days after. I don't remember ever having more patriotic feeling in this country than we did in those days after. And just praying that one day we can have that same unity in this country again. It is tough to serve in a country that's divided. And from a law enforcement perspective, you know, the past recent years, but since those events for sure, it has completely flipped. And it's not easy to serve. But I know that it's more difficult to serve in other communities because we are fortunate in New Lenox to have such support. And that's evident by the amount of people that are here this morning on a rainy Sunday at 8:30 in the morning to take the time to come out, to tell us thank you, to appreciate the work that we do. While we may not always be perfect, it's our job to maintain your trust and your support. And we do that by providing good service. And we can only try and continue to earn that respect and maintain that trust. And we're fortunate to work in a great community like New Lenox. And so on a day like today, I just want to say thank you. Thank you for coming out to thank us, but in reality, it's an opportunity to say thank you to all of you for making this a great community and the home of proud Americans. As police officers, we appreciate the support from the mayor, the board, and I'll just close saying that we have an outstanding police department with some great people, and more importantly, they're good human beings, and they come to work every day to do a tough job. but to do it in a great community with tremendous support. So from the bottom of my heart, I thank all of you.
Excellent. Excellent. Thank you. Chief Riegel, thank you.
Good morning, everybody. Good morning. Like Chief Allegrini said, now I get the pleasure of following both of these guys. But thank you, like they said, for coming out today. It's great to see the support from the community. The one thing I was thinking as these guys were talking and hitting most of the spots I was planning on hitting, I think the one thing that echoes with the mayor is we have to teach the young people. You know, I remember vividly my grandparents teaching me about Pearl Harbor and World War II and the other attacks. If we don't take the time to teach the younger generations about the past, it's bound to be forgotten. And if you forget history, you're bound to repeat it. So we have to take that time, make sure that all the young people understand what happened. Like Chief Alessandrini said, the patriotism that we saw after 9/11 was the best I've seen in my lifetime. So if we can just teach the kids about that, and hopefully we'll get some of that back. The one quote I always kind of remember in times like that is from from Mr. Rogers, that when bad times happen, if you look, you'll see the good people doing good things. So that's the one thing we have to teach our kids, I believe, is that when bad things are happening around us, if you look, you'll see people helping. If it's the police, if it's the fire, if it's the armed services, everybody's out there protecting, and even citizens. On 9/11, fire and police got a lot of credit, but there was a lot of citizens who died saving people that day as well. So again, thank you all for coming out, and have a good rest of your day.
Great, thank you, Chief. Tim, you want to?
Well, a pretty good crowd here.
Yeah, it's nice, absolutely.
Sometimes sitting in the front row. My name's Tim Terrell. I'm the commander of the VFW. Good morning.
Good morning.
Megan Applegate told me that I wasn't going to have to speak.
So I knew I could get you here, Tim, so.
She obviously has heard my speeches before. Tim, thank you for all your comments, Chief. I asked Megan, I said, let me go last and then I can just thank everybody, because they touched on pretty much every point that there is. Whether it's the young people or what we do or what our community's all about. So I would just like to say thank you to the first responders, thank you to the community, and God bless everybody, and let's go Bears.
Thank you, Tim. Thank you again, folks, for coming out. And I am allowed to say this as a former police officer. Grab those donuts before the guys in blue do. So have a good day. Thank you very much. God bless you. Thank you.